About half an hour to go for markets to shut. 3 points down for the Nifty, 8,149. Volumes are not that great, and you just get a sense that after Fed, markets have gone into a holiday mode. That's why probably 6 points higher for Sensex. The range is just very, very low in the markets today. Let's welcome in our next guest. Sanjiv Bhasin now joins us from India Infoline. Sanjiv, firstly about Claris, what do you make of the deal? And the stock opened 20% higher, but right now it's just up about 2%.
Yeah, I think it's all in the price, so it should be a positive, but we will have to see how the dynamics plays out. I've not fully read the numbers, but I think in the longer run, it's a big positive and it should play out positively.
Right. What do you think for the injectable businesses for companies like Dr. Reddy's, Aurobindo Pharma? You think markets will try to, look at these valuations and price their injectable business at those levels, or only when they sell, market will give it that value?
No, I think the multiple will definitely be expanded on what the particular business of injectables is. So we are relatively very, very positive on Dr. Reddy as a disclosure, and we have a positive coverage. We think Dr. Reddy, Cipla and Sun Pharma at these 630, 640 levels become very good attractive buys in the pharma space. And we think 2017 actually Dr. Reddy could be getting back its old hiatus after this a lot of the FDA issues get sorted out.
Right. In terms of, some of the other names, what are your picks that you have now? We've seen a substantial correction in the market. Which are the names that you would want to buy?
Yeah, so, we are taking 5-6 sectors and we think these stocks should give you at least a 20% upside. Top of the line would be Tata Motors, where we saw that big, huge deal being taking place, and we think the valuations, Tata Motors, Pankaj, is all an external play. So why should it be proxy to the demonetization? I fail to understand. At 440, 450, it was a screaming buy, 7 times forward earning. We think you could get 20% upside even from these levels. Second would be Ultratech, 3200. The stock has corrected all the way from 3600. 91 million tons of cement capacity, pricing power on the maximum, and short-term hiatus because of the mismatch in demand supply. But a brilliant opportunity to buy. We think Ultratech again is a 20% candidate on the upside. Third would be Asian Paints, one of the best consumption plays, which has corrected more to do with the the discretionary slowdown and part of the rise in crude. But given the brand, given the the pullback we are seeing after one quarter, again a 20% upside for us from that side. The fourth name would be Hindalco, closer to this 170. The metals will be the leading sector in 2017 on the back of the US expansion, and we think Hindalco is well poised on all base metals front to be an outperformer. Z Media, Z Entertainment, particularly one of the frontliners in the media, which has shown strong ad revenues. Maybe this quarter is a weak quarter, but closer to 430, you have a lot of opportunity on the upside. So these are some, and you can add a State Bank, which will be an inordinate gainer of the treasury profit because of the huge surplus which we are seeing in the banking system.
Let's talk about Asian Paints, Sanjeev. I went back to the numbers of Asian Paints and looked at the FY09 numbers. That's the time when crude actually went up, so sharply earlier as well, from about $55 to about $75.80. Their EBITDA drop was 50%. But over a period of time, they were able to pass on the price hike without any major volume problems. That's what you're trying to say, that irrespective of volumes, irrespective of the dynamics, pricing of this company will not come down, and whenever good times come, multiples would again go up?
Yes, exactly. You've summed it up well. What we are saying is you can't get quality names down unless there is a severe calamity because of FI selling this, because of their wanting to repatriate money. So our call is that at 900, it's a very, very sweet risk-reward ratio where most negatives are already priced in. Once you have the construction spending back, you'll be back to someone who has a 53% market share and who has huge pricing power. So also, Pankaj, we think that crude at these 55-60 levels may not last for too long. This is all a pullback rally on the back that we've seen soft commodities, base metals, energy all being in a strong uptick because of the dollar. And we think sooner rather than later, crude should trade in this belt of 45 to 50. which again will be very, very positive because most of the inventory stocking would help Asian Paint going forward.
Right, but Asian Paints is a different animal versus some of the other FMCG plays because the pricing power is very different.
Yes, it's in that niche sector. It's got hurt because, the biggest casualty would definitely be real estate and, construction spending and so on. But like we said, it has got its own positives. That's why the stock over a period of time has been one of the largest wealth creators. So we are saying it's a very, very opportune time. You can split that into 3-4 stocks basket. Say an Asian Paints, a Bajaj Auto on the two-wheeler side, or a Tata Global on the beverage side, where we think the business elasticity would give them huge upside potential once this short-term hiatus is sorted out.
Sanjiv, Asian Paints is something which you said. Now I want to ask about SBI. You're saying it will be one of the biggest beneficiary of the deposits, but at the same time loan growth is not picking up. We spoke to the management of bankbazaar.com this morning. They said that home loans, auto loans have clearly dried up since November 8th. Do you believe that it'll just be a very temporary phenomena and things would just start to get normal in a bit?
Yeah, surely, because Pankaj, you have to see that State Bank and the rest of the banks are going through once in a lifetime mammoth exercise of this demonetization. I think there is hardly any spare staff aside from cash which is handling anything else. So yes, there is this problem of credit not picking up. So that's why we said State Bank, because in the meantime, the treasury profit on the yields is going to be definitely a big bonus for them in the short term. And once we get back into, what is digitalization, it is going to create the tax base from 4 to say 10%, and the loan incumbents growing almost double digits for the next 2-3 years. So we are talking of a huge amount of retail lending which can take place.
No, Sanjeev, how will the tax increase lead to loan growth? It may lead to a lot of businesses also shutting down, where loans would come down.
On the retail side, Pankaj, there will be a large part of the public which becomes tax compliant, and as a fall through of that, consumption should definitely pick up after a lull. So we think the amount of please don't just say that State Bank is now the largest corporate lender, because it is making strong inroads into the retail side. In fact, that is why we think the fancy NIMs enjoyed by a large part of the private banks, that period of honeymoon is over. NIMs are going to contract sharply, and it's going to be a volume driven game. So obviously State Bank will also be able to wash out a lot of its past ills of NPAs through this one-time treasury gain. And I think it's a win-win situation at this time. It has been one of the biggest beneficiaries, and we have an overweight rating on State Bank.
Right. What do you do with these private banks? Do you believe that payment wallets, the way they are ahead into digital banking versus any other banks, they would at least tend to do well?
Yeah, see, it is all about how this comes out. We've never seen that before. Like we said, we are so candid about what demonetization will do. I have never had any experience, so I will not. I can only speak after the effect is known. Yes, but Pankaj, it is telling us that now even the smallest of class to the highest has to be having everything on his phone or on his laptop. And in a big way, it will initially start off with low fees, but going into that, I think banks are smart enough to start to make that as a fee income. So yes, it would be a positive, and it will sort out the men from the boys as who are going to give better service and better the better apps which are available going forward.
Right. You mentioned about Tata Motors. A lot of our viewers would not go into AGM and vote. So Tata Motors DVR is also a viable option?
Yeah, but as a disclosure, we have always tracked the underlying asset. We don't want to get into something which looks cheap but will remain in a band, and the multiple can only, the difference only. So it's best to stay with the Tata Motor. Like you said, it is a viable option on the DVR front. But Tata Motor itself, Pankaj, I think globally it would be the cheapest transportation stock. And transportation in the Dow is one of the largest components which is making new highs on a regular basis. So we see no let up in Tata Motors. Once we also know that come March 2017, the CV cycle will again be up and roaring. And that has been a little bit of a underpinning for Tata Motors. We think that could be a strong outperformer going into 2017.
Right. What would you do with oil marketing companies? Last 2-3 days have been tough. There'll be hike, there'll be no hike. We don't know. But do you think majority of the problems of these companies are behind? They've started to make profits. They've started to generate free cash flows, return their debt. So, maybe a month or two here and there, things would again start to look normal.
Yes, definitely. I mean, there have been multi-baggers in the last 2 years, or rather big outperformers. And, as a disclosure, we were very, very bullish on an upstream company like ONGC and oil. That has given stellar returns, Pankaj, all the way from 210. ONGC X bonus is now 210. So we have an overweight on ONGC on corrections and oil. But yes, HP, BP at these levels, BP closer to 600 and HP closer to 425, 430 are very, very attractive going forward, knowing fully well that a price hike is just a matter of time. Once the political vendetta is over, I think a price hike could be much on the cards, and plus you'll have this settling down of demonetisation. So that should be an added kicker. So I think at these levels, they are a very good accumulate with a slightly longer term.
Right. And what is the call on ONGC?
Outperform. I mean, we held that time that, this is the best proxy on oil prices rising and their margins expanding. The numbers in the last 2 quarters have been a standout. We think that going ahead, only the caveat that Pankaj, the stock has run up almost 50% from where we recommended it in the month of May, June. And we think it needs some cooling down because most of the good news may have already played out. But on any correction, if you want to play the upstream cycle, ONGC becomes a buy. Reliance also, by the way, around this 1040-50 is now showing you technically a very, very strong uptick. And I think there is a long overdue reaction, pending uptick from Reliance. We think levels of 1150 to 1200 in the next 6 months can be viable on Reliance going ahead.
Sanjiv, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Always a pleasure.